Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, Dorkus is joined by me, a wonderful co-host, that Don Kitty. Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world. Each segment we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. Hold on to your butts because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through. And today we will be covering chapter 52!
Chapter 52!
Yeah.
This was probably one of my favorite chapters in the book. I think it
Ooh.
had some of the most beautiful prose, some of the, I won't say the best character work, but some full circleness, I guess you could say.
Some rhymes, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Mirroring, something like that. Very, very good chapter. How about you?
Yeah, very exciting, action-packed,
Mhm.
very harrowing chapter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's one of those where you really do feel the pace that we're going at because you're like, I want to go to the next one, I want to go to the next one, but you just have to hold on. But it's good; we get to savor it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Although you and I are both going to kick it into overdrive fairly soon with a
Mhm.
slew of blind blinds, I think.
Yeah,
So,
quite a few.
yeah. But yeah, we get Vin heading back, and we get Hulk Sawzhead,
As
and
predicted, yeah.
yeah, we get a new character, Beatty.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And yeah, for how long?
Yep. Oh, we get Holy First Witness,
Yes.
which sounds
Mirrors.
suspiciously like something else.
Mm-hmm. The announcer. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, religion just springs up, hey? Even without trying. Even when the figures aren't even trying to be religious figures, people just like, oh, they just put this whole story onto to them. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we're gonna have a long discussion when we get to
mm-hmm.
that point in the story, I think, yeah?
Yeah, as usual.
Anything else to say then before we start?
Let's get into it.
My pleas, my teachings, my objections, and even my treasons were all ineffectual. Alendi has other counselors now, ones who tell him what he wants to hear.
Filler?
I feel like there's something deeper here beyond filler, and I'm just not sure.
Okay.
The big thing I get, though, is that Alendi's listening to other people now, and they're telling him what he wants to hear. Which, again, sort of doesn't quite jive with Logbook Man, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
Yeah.
But there's, generally speaking, merit to the concern that when a person only listens to things they want to hear, you're gonna tread down
Yeah,
a
they're
less than
compromised.
optimal path. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because but it's he doesn't really, again with the logbook thing, he doesn't so sure he doesn't want to hear that he's not the hero of ages, but we know that he's like, well, even if I'm not, I'm gonna try anyway because
Yeah.
somebody has to. So we have that knowledge. Obviously Quan doesn't have that knowledge. He doesn't have
Mhm.
that insight into him just saying, you know, this is what's going on, I'm gonna try it. Maybe Quan thinks he's doing it for glory or something, I don't know. Something.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, Quan, did you even try to tell him what you suspected he doesn't want to hear? Because Alendi's all like, I don't know why Quan betrayed me. I wish I could ask him.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, exactly. True. And also, what you no, I know why he wouldn't tell him. It's because he lied, right? So he's like, no, listen, I made all this up. So that makes him look bad. Him saying, oh well, I was lying about you. I'm sorry. Because remember, this is the theory, the working theory now is that Quan just lied about the whole thing. So him telling Alendi, I lied. This is you. This is all a fabrication. You've just added to it. Now go back home and be a shepherd or something, or be a craftsman. I don't think that would go down well. so that's why he didn't do it.
Yeah, imaginative exercise here. He stopped believing that Alendi was the hero of ages,
Mm-hmm.
so he convinces Rashek to do the deed.
Mm-hmm.
Rashek goes and does the deed, and then goes on a power trip, and then Quan feels bad that Rashek is becoming uppity
Mm-hmm.
and is trying to absolve himself of having been responsible for Rashek. Except that in the timeline of events, didn't we theorize, or at least didn't I theorize, that Quan had went with them essentially to the somewhere in a cold region
Mm-hmm.
before, slightly before, but around the time that Alendi had hired the Terrace guides, because Quan had said something like, "So I scribble with an ice crusted." No, that was Alendi. But I thought we determined that this happened around the time that all of the events were initially happening at the Well of Ascension that first time around.
Yeah, that it wasn't that long. It was like days before. That's
Hmm.
what I felt like, or maybe a week or something that Quan left them. Like it was on their journey to the Well of Ascension that Quan betrayed him.
Yeah.
Or is that not clear? I don't know if it's clear.
No, I thought it was that. Like I thought they were going, and then something on the way, somewhere relatively close to the mountains where it was snowy and cold and icy, that he left.
Mhm. One big question still hangs with me with all of this. It's like, why is it at the conventicle of Seren? Why is this rubbing, this writing in steel? Why is that there? Why are they preserving it? What is the
Yeah.
mythology around this? What is the lore around this?
Yeah. And I think relatively early on, we had determined something to the effect of the metal sheet grants legitimacy to Rashek, saying, "Aha, see, the person we thought was the hero of ages wasn't, and here are the reasons why."
Not that we even need that, like because they had the logbook. They had, as far as everyone knows now, Alendi didn't exist. This is Alendi and Rashek are the same person. They're the both are the hero of ages, and that's all.
But we also asked that same question of the logbook. Why keep it at all?
Yeah, yeah, and keep it in such a special place, and yeah.
Yeah. I'm still expecting Rashek epigraphs in the third book,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like he's going to have a much deeper inner life than either of us have granted due consideration, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because we're like he's the baddie. We don't really care about his inner life.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can give us that justifies what's going on.
Yeah. And I did get the impression from him in the first book that there was a sort of forlorn sadness, which I had credited to "I've been alive for 1,000 years,"
Hmm.
and it
Yeah,
kind of sucks,
yeah,
kind
it's
of a
tiring.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe it's the burden of something. Maybe there's a burden there. Maybe he doesn't think he's the hero of ages. I don't think we've given
Hmm.
I don't think we've been given an indication that he thinks he's the hero of ages, just that he thought the hero of ages should be a terraceman.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we haven't got that insight. Yes, that's the epigraph. I mean, the epigraph.
Yep. Breeze did his best to pretend he was not in the middle of a war. It didn't work very well. He sat on his horse at the edge of Zinc Gate's courtyard. Soldiers shuffled and clanked, standing in ranks before the gates, waiting and watching their companions atop the wall. The gates thumped. Breeze cringed, but continued his soothing. Be strong. Fear, uncertainty, I take these away. Death may come through those doors, but you can fight it. You can win. Be strong. I think that's a strong opening. It's classic Breeze whispering to himself, and I like the whole he's pretending he's not in a war. He's trying to.
Yeah, and it didn't work very well. It's like that kind of like dryness is like, okay, well, I'm trying though, and I enjoy it. It is very breezy, and yeah, it just brings us back to remember when we first saw Breeze at work, the way he like whispers and says, "Yes, feel this, do this, whatever." So nice reminder.
Endearing trait.
Hmm.
Brass flared like a bonfire within his stomach. He had long since used up his vials and had taken to choking down handfuls of brass dust and mouthfuls of water, which he had in steady supply thanks to Dockson's mounted messengers. My king!
Yes, he's got a steady supply. Oof, I'm just thinking of how scratchy that is. Listen, I get
Mm,
this is war. You don't get comfort, but yeah, just thinking of how Vin had to do with pewter dust, and he's doing it with brass. Oh,
yeah, I can't imagine that tastes very good.
but it scratches on its way down, and it's just with water, and there's no like preparation. But yeah, steady supply. Good, Doxon. Let's go. You need a supply of elementals, and yes, he is applying like a healing effect. Okay, and we get what I spoke about last time, where I was like, you got to try and figure out how would you apply this elemency to the groups, right?
Hmm.
So we actually get a bit of the insight into that. We got what I wanted.
Good. How long can this possibly last? He thought, wiping his brow, continuing to soothe. Fortunately, allomancy was very easy on the body, since the power came from within the metals themselves rather than the one who burned them. That feels like a deceptively important line.
Ooh. Okay, would you think it's gonna be turn out to be untrue, or it's going to be yeah?
I
What do you want us to do with that, Dorcas?
I'm not sure, but I feel like there are secrets to the mechanics of the world. We know Sanderson loves his magic systems,
Mm-hmm.
and that seems like a hyper specific detail, and I don't think we've gotten that specific detail before. And I
I feel like
vaguely
we have so something similar. I think it's
Hmm,
something similar. Yeah.
gotcha. And I do remember in a past stream, I think it was during the one of the Arcanum Unbounded streams, we wondered what would happen if an Allomancer tried metal from a different planet.
Hmm.
I think we talked about silver during Shadows for Silence. And anyway, those topics come to mind.
So pertinent. Just put a post-it there.
Yep.
Highlight it. Yeah.
Yet soothing was much more complex than other allomantic skills, and it demanded constant attention. Fear, terror, anxiety, the desire to run or give up. I take these from you. The speaking wasn't necessary, of course, but it had always been his way. It helped him focus. After a few more minutes of soothing, he checked his pocket watch, then turned his horse and trotted to the other side of the courtyard. The gates continued to boom, and Breeze wiped his brow again. He noted with dissatisfaction that his handkerchief was nearly too damp to do him any good. Snow was also beginning to fall. The wetness would make the ash stick to his clothing, and his suit would be absolutely ruined.
I love that he keeps that going. Like he keeps that thought in mind. Like, look, we got war going on. He's just described really scary things going on at the gates, and it's like, oh, my suit's gonna be absolutely ruined.
Yeah. I'll also note, I'm pretty sure battles generally don't happen in winter, or more specifically, you plan your warring seasons around winter.
Yeah, you try not to be battling during winter. Yes, that's not. It's
Yeah.
not usually ideal. Yeah.
Yeah. So added difficulty increased, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're playing this on, what is it?
Hard mode,
No, not even just hard mode. What is it?
legendary,
Nightmare. Nightmare.
nightmare. The suit will be ruined by your blood, Breeze, he told himself. The time for silliness is over. This is serious. Far too serious. How did you end up here? This is Sanderson hitting that note again, but it's not unreasonable for him to think, and it's a darker,
Mm,
it's an escalation of the darkness of the thought that he's had, I think,
mm,
in the past handful of POVs.
yeah. I'm okay with the repetition. It's just it makes it,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes you realize, yeah, he's still in this, and this is just getting worse for him. So.
Yep. It very much feels like we're reaching the end point.
Mhm.
He redoubled his efforts, soothing a new group of soldiers. He knew he was one of the most powerful allomancers in the Final Empire when it came to emotional allomancy. He could soothe hundreds of men at once, assuming they were packed close enough together, and assuming that he was focusing on simple emotions. Even Kelsier hadn't been able to manage those numbers. Nice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Think about that. Yes, you're powerful, Breeze. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're the best around.
Yet the entire crowd of soldiers was beyond even his ability, and he had to do them in sections. As he began work on the new group, he saw the ones he had left begin to wilt, their anxiety taking over. When those doors burst, these men are going to scatter. The gates boomed. Men clustered on the walls, throwing down rocks, shooting arrows, fighting with a frantic lack of discipline. Occasionally, an officer would push his way past them, yelling orders, trying to coordinate their efforts, but Breeze was too far away to tell what they were saying. He could only see the chaos of men moving, screaming, and shooting.
This just for me also focuses on he has to keep it together. Okay, everybody else is losing it as they should, and yeah, he could as well. But he has to keep it together so that he can soothe them and keep them together. It just shows how much strength he has to actually show, how much fortitude he has to go through. Like, okay, cool. He could just lose it and run, you know, but he has to stand fast. Hero Breeze.
Hero Breeze, he's committed.
Mm.
I still think he's gonna
What?
not make it out of this.
Mm. Yeah.
And of course, he could see the return fire. Rocks zipped into the air from below, some cracking against the ramparts. Breeze tried not to think about what was on the other side of the wall. The thousands of enraged Kolos beasts. Sometimes a soldier would fall, blood dripped down into the courtyard from several sections of the ramparts. Fear, anxiety, terror, Breeze whispered. Alrion had escaped. Vin, Elend, and Spook were safe. He had to keep focusing on those successes. Thank you, Sawzed, for making us send them away, he thought. Tragic.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, like they're on their way back now. So
Yeah.
sorry, Breeze.
Dark irony. At this point, I half expected Vin to come flying over.
Yes, I was wondering what's going on with the time wise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hoofbeats clopped behind him. Breeze continued his soothing, but turned to see Clubs riding up. The general rode his horse with a hunched-over slouch, inspecting the soldiers with one eye open, the other perpetually squeezed closed in a squint. They're doing well, he said. And I was like, are they? Because it didn't seem like it to Breeze, but I trust Clubs' judgment more than Breeze on the matter.
Yeah, of course. Breeze is going to be more hopeless, I think, because he's just not going to. Yeah, it's war, and it's going to look bad. But I think maybe Clubs is like he at least knows what war looks like, what
Mm-hmm.
battle looks like, so he could have a more realistic judgment of how they're doing compared
Yeah.
to how they could be.
My dear man, they're terrified. Even the ones beneath my soothing watch those gates like they were some terrible void waiting to suck them in. Clubs eyed Breeze. Feeling poetic today, are we?
I enjoy that. Thank you, Clubs. We need the humor.
Yeah, the dry humor. Impending doom has that effect on me. Breeze said as the gates shook. In any case, I doubt the men are doing well. Clubs grunted. Men are always nervous before a fight, but these are good lads. They'll hold. The gates shook and quivered, splinters appearing at the edges. Those hinges are straining, Breeze thought. Don't suppose you can shoot those Kolosh? Clubs asked. Make them less ferocious.
At this point, I was like, okay, yeah, I would like an answer to this. Because clearly, this is something we spoke about. So we're like, can they be sued? Da, 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 da. And he tried, obviously. It would have been great if imagine they all just stand there like 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 in a trance or something. But
Yeah,
no. So whatever transformation, because remember that's the prevailing theory, whatever transformation turned them into Kolos, because they're supposed to be once human, that has taken out emotional elemency, the effect on them.
yeah, I mean, there's not much to soothe if there are only two emotions. And is boredom really an emotion?
I don't know, but if you can riot boredom, maybe you can just make them just when you're bored, just make them roll their eyes to death, and then I don't know.
Aggressively bored.
Oh no, we don't want aggression at all. Just soothe the aggression completely.
Breeze shook his head. Soothing those beasts has no effect. I've tried it. They fell silent again, listening to the booming gates. Breeze glanced over at Clubs, who
Well,
sat. Hmm?
okay, he says it has no effect. I've tried it. Maybe he's just not. What if we duralumin and that because they are so emotionally intense that a normal soothing, even from Breeze, would not work. But if we duralumin soothe them, it would work.
I literally had that exact same thought, and I
Mm-hmm.
self censored it because Breeze wasn't a Mistborn or isn't a Mistborn.
Mm-hmm.
But I absolutely think that someone should try that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, like I know Breeze can't do it, but I'm just saying someone should.
Vin. Zane!
Zane's gone. It's
Yeah, I
okay.
know.
Dorkus is gone, and you can stay gone.
Yes. They fell silent again, listening to the booming gates. Breeze glanced over at Clubs, who sat unperturbed on his horse. You've been in combat before. How often? Off and on for the better part of 20 years, when I was younger. Fighting rebellions in the distant dominances, warring against the nomads out in the barrens. The Lord Ruler was pretty good at keeping those conflicts quiet. And how did you do? Were you often victorious? Always. Breeze smiled slightly. Of course, Club said, glancing at Breeze. We were the ones with Kolos on our side. Damn hard to kill those beasts. Great, Breeze thought.
Oh, that that's so brilliant. Like it's like he's like, yay, we were victorious. Like yeah, because we had Kronos on our side. Uh, thanks for
Yeah,
that little twist. It was great. Agreed.
well executed humor,
Mm-hmm.
and I think fairly textbook in what to expect from a war chapter, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cheerful war.
The juxtaposition of the humor against the backdrop of the tragedy that's occurring.
Mhm. Yep. And it works with these two characters so well.
Yeah. Vin ran. She'd only been on one pewter drag before with Kelsier over a year ago, burning pewter at a steady flare, running with incredible speed, like a sprinter in their quickest dash without ever growing tired. The process did something to a body. Pewter kept her moving, but it also bottled up her natural fatigue. The juxtaposition made her mind want to fuzz, bringing on a trance-like state of exhausted energy. Her soul wanted so badly to rest, yet her body kept running and running and running, following the canal toward the south, toward Luthadel. So maybe I was a little confused specifically about what pewter drag was. I didn't think it was the act of pushing yourself via the running. I thought it was the hangover
Yeah,
more
that's
so.
what I thought. Yeah. But I think the reason that we had that is because the way when we were introduced to it or when it was used. Vin was sitting at the table and Ham says pewter drag, and she says yes, and then he gives her ale.
Mm-hmm.
So it does see I can see how we made that association, but he said pewter drag as in like they pewter dragged, so it makes
Mm,
sense now. But I see how we made that conclusion before.
yeah. This time, Vin already had experience with the effects of pewter dragging, and so she handled them far better. She fought off the trance, keeping her mind focused on her goal, not the repetitive motions of her body, but that focus led her to discomforting thoughts.
Why am I doing this? Why push myself so hard? Spook said it. Luthadel has to have already fallen. There is no need for urgency.
And yet she ran. She saw images of death in her mind: Ham, Breeze, Dachshund, Clubs, and dear Sawzhead. Was that everyone? Did she forget anyone?
um, Hambreeze.
Demio?
Uh, um, she doesn't give a damn about Tyndall. But yeah, I guess that she's not part of the crew.
Right.
And yeah, Demir's not part of the crew either.
No,
He's not
sorry.
the whole crew. He wasn't, yeah. No.
The first real friends she had ever known. She loved Elend, and part of her blessed the others for sending him away from danger. However, the rest of her was furious at them for sending her away. That fury guided her.
They let me abandon them. They forced me to abandon them.
And at that, I knew that this was going to be one of my favorite chapters. I think that the "they forced me to abandon them" line and everything that that entails, considering Vin's character and the journey we have gone on with Vin,
Mhm.
makes it one of my favorite lines, I think, between both books.
So she is, yeah, considering abandonment from Vin is a big deal. And then the fact that she's been forced to abandon them is a big deal. I wonder how maybe this could lead to a bit of not lampshading, I don't know, but an acknowledgement of how easily they were persuaded to leave. Maybe they could talk about that at some point. It's like, oh, but you know you let me be persuaded, or there's a bit of guilt that she could have guilt for not realizing that they were lying to her. That sort of thing can come in. It's a very complex state of affairs.
Yeah, there are a lot of psychological elements that could be tugged at for future insecurities and storytelling and rumination.
And she's angry at them. So this is what she's angry at them here, but I'm thinking that anger can turn inward because it can be like, well, why didn't I notice? Why didn't I notice what they did?
Mm-hmm. Kelsier had spent months teaching her how to trust. His last words to her in life had been ones of accusation, and they were words she had never been able to escape. You still have a lot to learn about friendship, Vin. He had risked his life to get Spook and Orasor out of danger, fighting and killing a Steel Inquisitor. He had done this despite Vin's protests that the risk was pointless. She had been wrong.
She had been wrong about the pointlessness of it, right? Yeah.
She had been wrong to suggest that it wouldn't be worth trying to help them,
Mm.
that it wouldn't be worth risking his life.
Yeah.
And again, just really liking this passage.
Hmm. The character of it all.
Mm-hmm.
How dare they?
She thought, feeling the tears on her cheeks as she dashed down the canal's highway-like towpath. Pewter gave her inhuman balance, and the speed, which would have been perilous for anyone else, felt natural to her. She didn't trip, she didn't stumble, but an outside observer would think her pace reckless. Trees whipped by, she leapt washouts and dips in the land. She ran as she had done only once before and pushed herself even harder than she had on that day. Then she had been running simply to keep up with Kelsier. Now she ran for those she loved. Great prose.
This is the part, yeah. This is what you expect from this heightened part of the book, this climactic Sanderlanche happening sort of thing. You need these kind of epic lines.
Mm-hmm.
How dare they? How dare they not give me the same chance that Calcia had? How dare they refuse my protection, refuse to let me help them? How dare they die?
Her pewter was running low, and she was a mere few hours into her run. True, she had probably covered an entire day's worth of walking in those few hours, yet she knew it wouldn't be enough. They were already dead. She was going to be too late, just as when she'd run years before. Too late to save their army, too late to save her friends. Vin continued to run, teardrops spilling from her eyes. So,
Which one do you prefer? Mine says Vin continued to run, and she continued to cry.
I like teardrops spilling from her eyes, but I think Sanderson used that just a few paragraphs earlier.
Mm-hmm. Continued to cry.
So, yeah. Yeah, continued to cry. I think that's the way to go.
Because it's two continued, yeah. The two continueds, the repetition there. Oh, love it. So I guess that's why they went with it in this edition. But you know what? He put the parallels himself in there. Sanderson, he's like, she's running like this, and Calcia ran like this, and she was just following Calcia before, but now she is the one that's running. Like, but it's really expertly done. It's not clunky. So he puts that in there. He puts that in Vin's mind that she's noticing that there is a parallel, but it's not clunky. It's really well done.
Agreed. Really, Vin's portions in this chapter are some of my favorite. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like particularly wonderful commentary, but just again in my notes, I wrote uh, this passage is sincerely amazing. Wow. So, how did we get here, Clubs? Breeze asked quietly. He sat on his horse in the courtyard amid a muddy mixture of falling snow and ash. Simple, quiet flutterings of white and black seemed to belie the screaming men, the booming gate, the falling rocks. Clubs looked over at him, frowning. Breeze continued to stare up at the ash and snow, black and white. Lazy.
More pretty prose?
Yeah, we aren't men of principle. We're thieves, cynics. You, a man tired of doing the Lord Ruler's bidding, a man determined to see himself get ahead for once. Me, a man of wavering morals who loves to toy with others, to make their emotions my game. How did we end up here, standing at the head of an army fighting an idealist's cause? Men like us shouldn't be leaders. Clubs watched the men in the courtyard. Now, I will say, I did feel like we've heard that from Breeze before, and I appreciate the poeticism of
Mm-hmm.
it, but eh, I also felt a little bit of echoes of repetitive Sanderson in it as well. I wonder if he could have been a bit more creative in how he conveyed the same idea.
Maybe not with him saying it. What I'm seeing here is that it's that this is the end of days kind of thinking that is going on with Breeze. So yes, we know all of this. They've thought these things before, but
They've
because
said these things before.
yes, they have, but because they are literally on the line here, they know they've said these things before, but it's an irrational thing. You have these conversations at the end anyway.
Yeah.
So it's part of the fear and the ramping up of it for me.
Yeah, I guess for me, there's just something about the words that are used that make me feel as if this isn't how a person talks.
Hmm.
This feels like the author trying. I don't think lampshading's the right word, but something in that vein about this
So it's a
particular.
bit clunky.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if I'm being critical,
Yeah,
it's the emotion is there.
we're going
Yeah.
chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph. You're allowed to be critical. Hello, that's what we're doing
Thank
here.
you. Clubs watched the men in the courtyard. Guess we're just idiots, he finally said. Breeze hesitated, then noticed that glimmer in Clubs's eyes. That spark of humor was hard to recognize unless one knew Clubs very well. It was that spark that told the truth, that showed Clubs to be a man of rare understanding. Breeze smiled. I guess we are. Like we said before, it's Kelsier's fault. He turned us into idiots who would stand at the front of a doomed army. That bastard, Clubs said. Indeed. Ash and snow continued to fall, men yelled in alarm, and the gates burst open. And I will say, for all my criticism of that one specific paragraph, he
Mhm.
stuck the landing in the scene.
Yeah, and if they die, which is it's probably going to happen, that's like their last, you know, hurrah. Like part of their final, you know, words is this, and that's the ending for them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do we go back to them? We don't, do we?
Oh my gosh, is this their end? So help me, if they die off screen, I'm gonna be
No,
pissed.
no, no. I don't think they will. But this is like before. You know, I don't think they wouldn't die off screen. I don't think so. But what I'm saying is like this is the last we see them before the gates burst open. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. So it's like the last we see them. It's like, oh gosh, it's like them. It's very cinematic that they're standing there and they're smiling and they're having a. He's having a bit of a laugh with Clubs. Guess we're just
Thelma
idiots,
and
and
Louise.
they have this understanding, and then they are thrown into chaos. It's amazing. I love
Hit,
it.
they hit the gas pedal and drive right
Mhm.
off the cliff.
Yep.
Oh no, I hope they don't die off screen.
It sounds like they're getting a send off, Dorkus. That sounds like a whole send off there. This is just a little bit of prose, like what, a couple paragraphs.
Clubs said the men would hold, and they
Mhm.
sent for reinforcements. They'll be fine.
Mhm.
The men are doing well.
You literally said like a couple POVs ago that Breeze is gonna die in this book, so it's gonna happen sometime. We don't have much left.
No.
Yeah.
Syncgate has been breached, Master Terraceman, Doxon's messenger said, puffing slightly as he crouched beside Sazed. They both sat beneath the wall-top battlements, listening to the Kolos pound on their own gate. The one that had fallen was on the easternmost side of Luthadel. Syncgate is the most well defended, Sazed said quietly. Save will be able to hold it, I think. See? See? They'll be able to hold it. I'm sure Clubs and Breeze are fine. The messenger nodded. Ash blew along the wall top, piling in the cracks and alcoves in the stone, the black flakes adulterated by the occasional bit of bone-white snow. Is there anything you wish me to report to Lord Doxon? The messenger asked. Sazed glanced along his wall's defenses. He'd climbed down from the watchtower, joining the regular ranks of men. The soldiers had run out of stones, though the archers were still working. He peeked over the side of the wall and saw the Kolos corpses piling up. He also saw the splintered front of the gate. It's amazing they can maintain such rage for so long, he thought, ducking. The creatures continued to howl and scream like enraged dogs.
Okay, it's amazing. Are we supposed to note that? It's amazing they can maintain such rage for so long. Like, is it supernatural rage?
Just, it's a feat to be certain to be able to maintain
Mhm.
one specific emotion, particularly such an energy depleting emotion as rage
Mhm.
for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it's like
Barbaric,
it's
monstrous.
yeah, berserker mode without cooldown. Like
Hmm.
there's no cooldown. They just keep going until they die. That's the
Yeah.
only way that you end it. That's an interesting mechanic. That if for a game, I'm just saying that
Hmm.
there's a berserker mode that has no cooldown. So if you go berserker, you stay berserker until you die. But there's some payoffs and things like that. Interesting. I wanna think about that a bit more.
Do so. If you're gonna die, die angry. He sat against the wet stone, shivering in the chill wind, his toes growing numb. He tapped his brass mine, drawing out the heat he'd stored therein, and his body flooded with a pleasant sensation of warmth. Tell Lord Doxon that I fear for this gate's defenses, Sazed said quietly. The best men were stolen away to help with the eastern gates, and I have little confidence in our leader. If Lord Doxon could send someone else to be in charge, that would be for the best, I think. Oh, Sazed, what such hatred? Hmm? Hmm?
Yeah, says it.
What?
Again.
Why do you hate them so much, Sazed?
And also just says it like that's what you're here for, honey. Hello. That's what you're there for. You're not there to be a messenger or something. Like you are there because you're supposed to lead and also you have powers. Hello. It's a slow uh, realization from him. I understand. Because this is just unlike him. He's not a hero, active hero dude.
Yeah,
In his mind, he's not.
yeah. He has to self-actualize a little bit
Hmm.
himself, step into an uncomfortable set of shoes, so to speak.
Hmm. Meanwhile, how cool! Think about how cool it was when he rescued Vin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The messenger hesitated. What? Sazed asked. Isn't that why he sent you, Master Terraceman? Sazed frowned. Please tell him I have even less confidence in my own ability to lead or to fight than I do in that of our commander.
That's great, Sazed. Like that's great. Let the messenger get that message. He's gonna feel so good about the whole situation, leaving you after you've said that to go and tell the leader,
Yeah.
hey, by the way, this whole gate over here, absolutely, you know, it's gonna be flattened because bro is he said he's not up to it. And he didn't say it when you sent him there. He said it now.
The messenger nodded and took off, scrambling down the steps toward his horse. Sazed cringed as a rock hit the wall right above him. Chips flipped over the merlin, scattering to the wall walk in front of him. By the forgotten gods, Sazed thought, wringing his hands. What am I doing here? He saw motion on the wall beside him and turned as the youthful soldier captain, Captain Beatties, scuttled over, careful to keep his head down. Tall with thick hair that grew down around his eyes, he was spindly beneath his armor. The young man looked like he should have been dancing at balls, not leading soldiers in battle. Why do you hate them so much, Sazed? I don't mean to harp
You're
on it.
enjoying this.
I
It's
am a
okay.
little
You
bit.
were angry at Sazed, so I can see that this
I
is
have
just a follow up. Yeah.
I have so few opportunities to be angry at Sazed,
Hmm.
and I cannot defend Doxin enough. But I will say I did fully expect at this point that Sazed would say some inspiring bit of word to Beatties, and Beatties would somehow uh,
Self actualize instantly.
instantly self actualize and somehow be proof that Doxson shouldn't have let his hatred blind him. I thought that was where Sanderson would take this.
Cool. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, let's. What did the messenger say? Beatties asked nervously.
That's brilliant.
A little bit of a callback to the
Hmm.
fraternity nobleman.
Hmm.
Zinkgate has fallen, my lord, Sazed replied. The young captain paled. What what should we do? Why ask me, my lord? You are in command. Please, the man said, grabbing Sazed's arm. I don't. I. My lord, Sazed said sternly, forcing down his own nervousness. You are a nobleman, are you not? Yes. Then you are accustomed to giving orders. Give them now. See, I was so confident this was going to lead to the self-actualization.
Oh, this is so no, but you know what? Like the way that you're playing it now, that's also it makes it's funny, but it makes what happens. You know, it's not. It was really tragic.
Yeah.
I didn't read him as this moron. You know, like he's trying his best. You know.
Oh, I have no doubt of that.
Mm.
I am
Yeah.
sure he's trying his best to. He's just woefully unprepared for the job
Mhm.
that he's in. Now,
Mhm.
granted, I'm sure that there are more competent noblemen, but I suspect those were the ones that were sent to the
Mhm.
gates more likely to be hit. So it's not
Yeah.
entirely this guy's fault.
Mm.
Nevertheless, there's other context around why I feel the way I do about this guy. Which orders? It doesn't matter. Let the men see that you are in charge. The young man wavered, then yelped and ducked as a rock took one of the nearby archers in the shoulder, throwing him back into the courtyard. The men below scrambled out of the way of the corpse, and Sazed noticed something odd. A group of people had gathered at the back of the courtyard. Civilians, ska in ash-stained clothing. And at that moment, I thought, these are reinforcements, not sent by Doxson. They are the church prepared to fight to a man.
Yeah, I thought that they were just going to fight. That's what I thought they were there to do, not to just sit and watch.
Yeah, and honestly, that kind of pisses me off and makes me
Mm.
not like them. Look, I
Mm.
understand you're an octogenarian. I understand that you are a 6-year-old. You're just gonna sit there and watch.
And
But
that's how big their faith is. They're like, yeah, I'm here to see everything turn out because it's what's going to happen.
yeah, it annoys me. It does not endear me to them.
Yeah. Also, just thinking about it, before we got to that part, the fact that Sazed is like encouraging this young man, I'm okay with that. Yes, he's the advisor. That's what he's supposed to do. But this kind of the fact that he has to tell this guy how to feel and guide him. It's like, but you are right there. You yourself can do this. You can lead. So I don't know. I felt like that discussion as well just made me it set me up to want more from Sazed.
Yeah.
And expect more from him, like be frustrated with him and know that he's got way more to offer than just telling this other guy how to feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are they doing here? Sazed asked. They should be hiding, not standing here to tempt the Kolos once the creatures break through. Once they break through? Captain Beatties asked. Sazed ignored the man. Civilians he could deal with. He was accustomed to being in charge of a nobleman's servant.
Okay, so that you see that does make sense. That he's like, oh, I'm just advising. He's gone back to his old instincts. Really, he's like, I'm just advising the nobleman, right? That's what I've got to do. It doesn't occur to him yet. I suppose it wouldn't occur to him. I need to take control. I need to lead.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, oh, okay, well, because these are normal civilians, I can now lead here. So he's still a slave to that mechanism he was under as a terroristman.
Yeah. He's a bit scared to take the reins. He's
Mm-hmm.
retreating to comfort,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yeah.
It's okay, he'll get there.
Yeah, he will.
Once they break through? Captain Beatties asked. Sazed ignored the man. Civilians he could deal with. He was accustomed to being in charge of a nobleman's servants. I will go speak to them, Sazed said. Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
Thanks, Beaties. Really, really helped. Like, Sazed needed you to say that.
Sazed made his way down the steps, which were growing slick and wet with ashen slush, then approached the group of people. There were even more of them than he had assumed. They extended back into the street a short distance. 100 or so people stood huddled together, watching the gates through the falling snow, looking cold, and Sazed felt a little guilty for his brass mind's warmth. So there's 100 of them. That's not insubstantial when he has only, 400 left?
Yeah,
Probably a bit
yeah,
less by now?
yeah. But I mean, look, we know they're not exactly the fittest of the population, but
No.
they're there and desperate times.
Yeah. Like, at least set up, it probably doesn't matter, but like set up a tent and treat the wounded or something.
Yeah, do something. Don't just they can't, like they might as well just brought popcorn and they're like, yeah, we're here to see that it happen. Yoo-hoo!
And I think that's what I find to be a bit more offensive than anything, is the popcorn imagery that's invoked in me from the way it's described.
Yeah, it's just this. That I guess they don't know how to have faith. It makes sense that this is how faith would manifest in people. They're just like, well, yeah, you're telling me to believe in a thing, and it will turn out exactly the way I expected.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Yeah, so, they have to learn these lessons still.
Yeah. And I'm not getting like vigil
Mm-mm.
vibes. They aren't
No.
burning candles there and praying together. They're just there watching.
Yeah, they're there to see it. Like they're not there to say goodbye or to pay respects or anything. No, they completely think it's just gonna
That Vin will
turn out
show
one
up
day.
to save the
Yeah.
day.
Mm. It's crazy.
Several of the people bowed their heads as Sazed approached. Why are you here? Please, you must seek shelter. If your homes are near the courtyards, then go hide near the middle of the city. The Kolos are likely to begin pillaging as soon as they finish with the army, so the edges of the city are more dangerous. None of the people moved. Please, you must go. If you stay, you will die. We are not here to die, Holy First Witness, said an elderly man at the front. We are here to watch the Kolos fall. Fall? Sazed asked. And this is the first mention of the phrase Holy First Witness, and I don't
Hmm.
think it popped up today.
Yeah, no, they didn't make this up today as they saw him. They've been talking about him. There's been a lot going on with this church that we just don't know, and they're. It's interesting. Will they have this like crisis of faith, or will they just be even more rabid about this and interpret absolutely everything to be like, you see, everything worked out the way we expected, because it raises great questions about developing a faith. I like the way Branderson does that. He often touches on that theme in his
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
And already the phrase Holy First Witness invokes lots of ideas,
Yeah.
particularly as they pertain to the announcer, but we're
Hmm.
not quite there yet for the full, oh, this is supposed to sound like the announcer.
Hmm.
We are here to watch the Kolos fall. Fall?
The Lady Air will protect us.
The Lady Air has left the city. Then we will watch you, Holy First Witness, the man said, leaning with one hand on a young boy's shoulder. Holy First Witness? Why call me this name? You are the one who brought news of the Lord Ruler's death. You gave the Lady Air the spear she used to slay our Lord. You were the witness to her actions. And it's that right there.
Hmm.
You brought news. What is that if not announcer?
Yes, brought news. And he announced the Lord ruler's death. Yeah, true.
Hmm.
And just the way we know what we know about Sazed. He studies religions and all of this, and he's all observing, and he's always been, oh, okay, I'll observe the way that they're working with Vin and all of that. Now he's actually part of it. He's a
Yeah.
character in a religion. It's an interesting place for this character to be placed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Very much so.
Mm.
He's in the mythos now.
Yeah.
There's one important subtle element that also needs to be added here, though, when considering the truth of the claims, the
Mhm.
potential announcer comparison. Because
Mhm.
damn it, I'm still convinced Sazed is the hero of ages. Demio, when proselytizing,
Mhm.
said strange things about changing colors back. I think, didn't he talk about yellow sun and green grass or something? And Vin
Mhm.
was like, where did you hear that? And Demio couldn't quite put his finger on it.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if whatever source sprung those elements, which did strike me a little bit of prophecy, a little bit, not necessarily one to one with the Hero of Ages prophecy, but it is in and of itself a bit of prophetic language that
Mhm.
the air will do this thing. I wonder if there's a parallel between how those rumors started and Sazed being called the Holy First Witness, or whatever connection there may be, because obviously he did the thing, and the name is appropriate to the thing he did.
Hmm.
I'm just making this connection in my mind. Noteworthy, noted, asterisked.
So you're saying there's some sort of there could be some sort of force that created these names and things like that that was
Possible.
driving this. There clearly is something that's driving that.
There is something that's driving it. Yeah,
Hmm.
something. I suspect there might be more to this religion, and when Sanderson sees fit to tell us more, there will be shocking parallels between it and the prophecy.
Okay.
Holy First Witness? Why call me this name? You are the man who brought news of the Lord Ruler's death. You gave the Lady Air the spear she used to slay our Lord. You were the witness to her actions. Sazed shook his head. That may be true, but I am not worthy of reverence. I'm not a holy man. I'm simply a witness. If the heir is to join this fight, she will appear near you. Now, that seems like a thing that would happen. It does?
It does. Like she would cut. Look, okay, the appear part makes me laugh because, like, yeah, she would. That's basically what it looks like from the outside. Whenever Vin is around, it's just like she appears out of nowhere. So,
And
yeah,
and let's not pretend she wouldn't prioritize Sazed above the
yeah,
rest.
yeah, exactly. Dear Sazed. So she would definitely be there. So I was in agreement as well when I heard this guy say that.
I am sorry, Sazed said, flushing. I sent her away. I sent your god to safety. The people watched him. And he thought those parts. That last
Hmm.
part, by the way. He said, I'm sorry, and then thought.
Hmm.
The people watched him, their eyes reverent. It was wrong. They should not worship him. He was simply an observer. And that they should not worship him element, I thought that thought really needs more due consideration from Sazed, considering all of the accusations clubs had leveled at him. Obviously, there's no time to do that, but
Hmm.
yeah, how does it feel, Sazed?
Hmm.
I say humorously, I'm not actually being mean to him there.
Hmm.
I've been plenty mean to him this chapter thus far. That was not intended to
Playfully
be mean.
mean. This is
Like,
not real mean. Yeah.
yeah. He was simply an observer. Except he wasn't. He had made himself part of all of this. It was as Tyndall had indirectly warned him. Now that Sazed had participated in events, he had become an object of worship. You should not look at me like that. The Lady Air says the same thing, the old man said, smiling, breath puffing in the cold air. That is different. She is. He cut off, turning as he heard cries from behind. The archers on the wall were waving in alarm, and young Captain Beatties was rushing over to them. What is. A bestial blue creature suddenly pulled itself up onto the wall, its skin streaked and dripping with scarlet blood. It shoved aside a surprised archer, then grabbed Captain Beatties by the neck and tossed him backward. The boy disappeared, falling to the Kolos below. Sazed heard the screams even from a distance. A second Kolos pulled itself up onto the wall, then a third. Archers stumbled away in the shock, dropping their weapons, some shoving others off the ramparts in their haste. Well,
Oof. Sorry,
so
BDs.
yeah, so much for self-actualization there.
Well, he functions to show Sazed there's no one else. It's you. You
Yeah,
have to do this. Okay? You can't just keep guiding people in. No, you have to do it. And that's what you did previously. You you went and rescued Vin yourself. You weren't just advising and things like that. You took part in this. And yes, these people are serving to remind him of that. And then the fact that Beatties gets yeeted also is another reminder. Like, there is no one else does it. You don't get to think about this. And that is what Vin has been doing. What all of this whole religion, everybody involved in this religion in terms of the actors, Calcia, etc. They're just doing what they need to do. Obviously Calcia had a lot more. He knew he was trying to build a religion around it. But the thing is that that's what Vin was doing. That's what you were doing. Now you have to go and do it again. You have to get involved and you have to take action. You can't just observe. You're not an observer, Sazed. So I'm just loving the character work with him.
Yep, very much so. Sokolos are leaping up, Sazed realized. Enough corpses must have piled below, yet to jump so high. More and more creatures were pulling themselves onto the top of the wall. They were the largest of the monsters, the ones over 10 feet in height, but that only made it easier for them to sweep the archers out of their way. Men fell to the courtyard, and the pounding on the gates redoubled. Go! Sazed said, waving at the people behind him. Some of them backed away. Many stood firm. Sazed turned desperately toward the gates. The wooden structures began to crack. Splinters sprang through the snowy, ash-laden air. The soldiers backed away, postures frightened. Finally, with a snap, the bar broke, and the right gate burst open. A howling, bleeding, wild mass of Kolos began to scramble across the wet stones. Soldiers dropped their weapons and fled. Others remained, frozen with terror. Sazed stood at their rear between the horrified soldiers and the mass of Ska. Okay?
Oof. Yeah, it's now or never.
Yep.
Yeah, it's now or never, Sazed. You got to do it. It's so cinematic. It's so scary. Oh, it's energetic. It's gross. Blood is everywhere. I'm loving this chapter.
It's so good.
Hmm.
I am not a warrior, he thought, hands shaking as he stared at the monsters. It had been difficult enough to stay calm inside their camp, watching them scream, their massive swords out, their skin ripped and bloodied as they fell upon the human soldiers. Sazed felt his courage begin to fail. But if I don't do something, nobody will.
Yay! Sorry.
Yay!
That's the whole point. That's what we needed you to see. Nobody will do anything if you don't do it. So you can't sit and observe.
Yup. Everyone's gotta participate.
Do your part, Sazed.
He tapped pewter. His muscles grew. He drew deeply upon his pewter mind as he dashed forward, taking more strength than he ever had before. He had
Mine
spent...
says steel mind. He says he drew deeply upon his steel mind as he dashed forward, taking more strength than he ever had before. Interesting.
Yeah,
Is it a
mine
mistake?
definitely says pewter mind.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Steel mind is wrong.
Yes?
Hmm. Anyway.
He drew deeply upon his pewter mind as he dashed forward, taking more strength than he ever had before. He had spent years storing it, rarely finding occasion to use it, and now he tapped that reserve. So, couple of things there. Again, a bit nitpicky, but I thought he burnt the bulk of the useful energies on his way to Luthadel. I would have imagined that would include strength, unless you're going to make a distinction between endurance and strength, which I think it does do. Well,
Mm-hmm.
wakefulness, but that wakefulness isn't quite the same as endurance. Point being, I would imagine if you're traveling cross country, strength would be helpful. Anyway.
Yeah, nitpicky because it still makes sense because he was tapping speed.
Yeah, that's
So
true, but he ran
he
out
was
of
tapping
speed
it.
eventually.
Yeah, but yeah, and I guess you're saying because pewter, when it comes to an allomancer, pewter makes them faster and stronger, whatever. It would mean the same thing for him. But yeah, he wouldn't need to draw that deeply on it. I don't think so. I buy it. I do.
That's fair as well, but the other thing I was going to say is there was much added emphasis in the previous chapter about him gearing up for war.
Hmm.
I guess I would just lump strength in there as it's also going to be short on reserves as well. And it was just a little bit of a surprise to see that he had years worth.
Hmm.
It's not like a total issue.
Hmm.
It's certainly not a ruining issue. It's just, again, a little nitpicky of me as I go through.
Hmm.
His body changed, weak scholar's arms transforming into massive, bulky limbs. His chest widened, bulging, and his muscles grew taut with power. Days spent fragile and frail, focused on this single moment. He shoved his way through the ranks of soldiers, pulling his robe over his head as it grew too restrictive, leaving himself wearing only a loincloth. So, 2 points of fact here. One, no one else knows about Ferukemi in this crowd, I would bet
Mhm.
decent money on. So that must be a sight. But I also wrote a note to myself, leaving him wearing only a loincloth. Lol, lol, lol. He knew from the beginning he was going to do this, and he wore a loincloth specifically for it. And that's humorous to me.
You made that leap. I did not make that leap. I was just like he was wearing a loincloth. That's it. Because he just wore a loincloth. That's it. And the way in or maybe it's because in my book it says only a vestigial loincloth, which is kind of like it's a remaining loincloth that just kind of that's it. It was remained. It's left behind, kind of. So I didn't take it that he knew this was going to happen. I felt like he wears a loincloth anyway.
Is there a significant difference between what is a loincloth and what is underwear or undergarment?
No, not to me.
See, I think there's a big difference. I imagine a difference at least.
What's the difference?
I feel like a loincloth isn't underwear. Underwear is something you wear under pants, say, for cleanliness reasons,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a loincloth strikes me as something more designed to cover that specific area. A loincloth is meant to be visible in my mind, underwear is not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I understand. But and then I guess if we go with that, he knew this was going to happen, but he had to be pushed either way. Even though he knew he was ready for this, he had to be pushed all the way. The point is, he had all of this. He had, like you say, the loincloth. He had the pewter mine. He had all of these things. He had prepared himself, but he still was not going to take the step to actually go and do it. The point is, he did finally.
Yeah. Well, we know, yeah, I mean, and he's very triumphant in this passage
Mm,
as well, and it's wonderful to read. I'm not complaining. I think it's funny because I guess to me, loincloth meant a certain degree of preparation that I just found humorous.
mm. Yeah, because it would have to be big enough to fit when he grows. All of that.
There's also that added element of he knew he was going to grow, so he had to purposefully pick an oversized loincloth.
Hmm.
And then the thought of he's been wearing the
Hmm.
loincloth for a while now, just
Hmm.
undersized in his undergarments.
That's what a terrorist person should do. It's just a thing that they should have.
Yeah. Anyway, none of this is meant to be thought on too deeply, but I chuckled.
Hmm.
The lead Kolos turned to find himself facing a creature nearly his own size. Despite its rage, despite its inhumanness, the beast froze, surprise showing in its beady red eyes. Sazed punched the monster. He hadn't practiced for war and knew next to nothing about combat, yet at that moment his lack of skill didn't matter. The creature's face folded around his fist, its skull cracking.
So cool.
So cool. Hulk
Hmm.
Sazed. Brute force it. Sazed turned on thick legs, looking back at the startled soldiers. Say something brave, he told himself.
I love that.
Fight! Sazed bellowed, surprised at the sudden deepness and strength of his voice, and amazingly, they did.
Woo! So good. So good.
Yup.
And I love that. I loved the say something brave in his head. So good. Because he's still saws it, guys. He still saws it. Like he's this big Hulk, but he's just a nerd inside there.
Yup.
I love it so much. Love saws it. Go boy.
He's great. I'm sure it'll work out very well for him. He's the hero of ages. He can.
Hmm.
He's gonna survive.
Yeah, and then we're gonna also get him to train with Ham because Ham's also gonna live.
Yes. No, I still think it's gonna be Breeze and Clubs. and it'll be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be Ham. I don't think it'll be Dachshund. I could believe it could be Demio as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Vin might speak at his funeral and be like, I didn't know him as well as I'd have liked to, or something to that effect, and I'll be slightly annoyed. Yeah,
Let's
that-
go.
let's go. Vin fell to her knees, exhausted on the muddy, ash soaked highway. Her fingers and knees hit the slushy cold, but she didn't care. She simply knelt, wheezing. She couldn't run any farther. Her pewter was gone. Her lungs burned and her legs ached. She wanted to collapse and curl up, coughing.
It's just the pewter drag.
She thought forcibly. She'd pushed her body hard, but hadn't had to pay for it until now. Also, where's Marsh?
Yeah. Still waiting for this.
Mm-hmm. She coughed a moment longer, groaning, then reached a dripping hand into her pocket and pulled out her last 2 vials. They had a mixture of all 8 base metals plus duralumin. Their pewter would keep her going for a little bit longer, but not long enough. She was still hours away from Luthadel. Even with pewter, she wouldn't arrive until long after dark. She sighed, replacing her vials, forcing herself to her feet.
What would I do if I arrived? Why work so hard? Am I that eager to fight again? To slaughter?
She knew that she wouldn't arrive in time for the battle. In fact, the Kolos had probably attacked days ago. Still, this worried her. Horrific images of her assault on Set's Keep still flashed in her head. Things she had done, deaths she had caused. Yet something felt different to her now. She had accepted her place as a knife. What was a knife but another tool? It could be used for evil or for good. It could kill or protect. Little bit of Kaladin there.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Yes, that's true. Same themes.
Yeah. That point was moot, considering how weak she felt. It was hard to keep her legs from trembling as she flared tin, clearing her head. She stood on the Imperial Highway, a sodden, pockmarked roadway that looked, in the softly falling snow, to twist onward for eternity. It ran directly beside the Imperial Canal, which was a snake-like cut in the land, the water wide but with no traffic extending beside the highway. So she's getting closer, so that's good.
Hmm. At this point, I'm like really trying hard to just look for this freaking push and pull highway thing. I'm like, because remember last time, I'm like, no, I need her to get one of those. Maybe there's another one. And she's, like, I was so happy that she actually did start thinking about it.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then she does some nice juggling,
Hmm.
which is cool, but we'll get there. It ran directly beside the Imperial Canal, which was a snake-like cut in the land, the water wide but with no traffic extending beside the highway. Before, with Elend, this road had seemed bright and new. Now it looked dark and depressing. The well thumped, its pulses growing more powerful with each step she took back toward Luthadel. Yet it wasn't happening fast enough. Not fast enough for her to stop the Kolos from taking the city. Not fast enough for her friends.
Yeah. Also, I'm wondering about the time. What reveal there's going to be. I don't know if this is happening all at once. Is this now as we're seeing this? Sazed is fighting the Kolos.
That's kind of what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. Like previously, we had this kind of what we were trying to figure that out when Sazed was on his way to Luthadel. We had these things like, oh, is he going to do timey-wimey stuff? So in this situation, I'm like, no, he's not doing it either. He didn't do it with Sazed. He's not doing it with Vin now. So
Yeah,
Vin thinks she's much later than she actually is.
yeah. Also, not to harp on it ad nauseum, this road had seemed bright and new before with Elend. Uh,
Hmm.
it so tonally clashes to me with what they should have thought they were leaving.
Hmm.
Not that they should have known necessarily the intricacies of Sazed's trickery, but yeah,
They
that
shouldn't have been honeymooning, is what you're saying.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
She thought, teeth chattering as she pulled her cloak tight, pewter no longer aiding her against the cold.
I'm so sorry that I failed you.
She saw a line of smoke in the distance. She looked east, then west, but didn't see much. The flat landscape was clouded in ashen snows.
A village.
Thought her still numb mind. One of many in the area. Luthadel was by far the most prominent city of the small dominants, but there were others. Elend hadn't been able to keep them completely free of banditry, but they had fared far better than many towns in other areas of the final empire. Vin stumbled forward, pressing on through the slushy black puddles. After about 15 minutes of walking, she turned off the main highway and made her way up a side road to the village. It was small, even by Ska standards, only a few hovels along with a couple of nicer structures.
Not a plantation. This was once a way village, a place for traveling noblemen to stop for the evening.
The small manor, which would have been run by a minor noble landlord, was dark, but two of the Ska hovels had light shining through the cracks. The gloomy weather must have convinced the people to retire from their labors early. I liked that as a little bit of a callback to Ellen's "The Ska hovels will keep them warmer than the mansions."
Yeah, because the mansion's clearly
Go.
open for them, but no, they can go in there. They do choose their hovels because it is warm in there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, this village will become a holy site.
It's where she, yeah. Oh gosh, you're right. Especially because of they how they react to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Vin shivered, walking up to one of the buildings, her tin-enhanced ears picking out sounds of talking inside. She stopped, listening. Children laughed and men spoke with gusto. She smelled what must have been the beginnings of the evening meal, a simple vegetable stew. And I thought, well, that's heartwarming.
I was because it was so heartwarming. I was actually like, what the hell? This is so weird. It's so surreal because we've got this chaos at the gates, and then we had her running, which was very intense, and now we just have these people that are just having dinner. It was a whiplash moment, but a good one.
Yeah, I didn't quite get whiplash. I got, oh yeah, there are other places in the world right now experiencing none of the drama
hmm
and tension. They're just people trying to survive,
Scar laughing.
she thought. A hovel like this one would have been a place of fear and gloom during the days of the Lord Ruler. Happy Ska had been considered underworked Ska.
We've meant something. It's all meant something.
But was it worth the deaths of her friends? The fall of Luthadel? Without Ellen's protection, even this little village would soon be taken by one tyrant or another. She drank in the sounds of laughter. Kelsier hadn't given up. He had faced the Lord Ruler himself, and his last words had been defiant. Even when his plans had seemed hopeless, his own corpse lying in the street, he had secretly been victorious. Again, I'm loving this chapter. For all my nitpicks, this is one of my favorite chapters. We're getting good thoughts about Kelsier again. We're getting wonderful observations from Vin.
hmm
Very powerful prose.
Yeah, powerful prose in terms of the way it really does call back to what was there before. And again, just the way he does it, it's not clunky that this character is observing it herself, like making the connection herself. This is Vin, it works for her to do that.
Having just said that, I looked at my notes and I only have one more note left. And we'll get to it
Okay.
because it's a doozy.
Okay. I refuse to give up. I refuse to accept their deaths until I hold their corpses in my arms.
She raised a hand and pounded on the door. Immediately, the sounds inside stopped. Vin extinguished her tin as the door creaked open. Ska, especially country ska, were skittish things. She'd probably have to,
Oh, you poor thing!
a woman exclaimed, pulling the door open the rest of the way.
Come in out of that snow. What are you doing out there?
Vin hesitated. The woman was dressed simply, but the clothing was well made to stave off the winter air. The fire pit in the center of the room glowed with a welcome warmth. Other villagers seated around it.
Child?
The woman asked. Behind, a stocky, bearded man rose to place a hand on the woman's shoulder and study Vin. And again, you can tell this is supposed to be a heartwarming, sweet, this is what everyone is fighting for
Mm-hmm.
place.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this look, this has not all been for nothing. We have It's all meant something. Look, Vin, she's already thinking, oh, the plantation scar are gonna be skittish, and look how much has changed in the 2 years, basically.
Yep.
Pewter, I need pewter.
The couple looked at each other, frowning. They probably thought her mind addled. After all, how must she look, hair drenched by the snow, clothing wet and stuck with ash? She wore only simple riding clothing, trousers and a nondescript cloak. "Why don't you come inside, child?" the man suggested. "Have something to eat. Then we can talk about where you came from. Where are your parents?"
Lord Ruler,
Vin thought with annoyance.
I don't look that young, do I?
I chuckled.
Yes, you do, Vin.
She threw a soothing on the couple, suppressing their concern and suspicion. Then she rioted their willingness to help. She wasn't as good as Breeze, but she wasn't unpracticed. The couple immediately relaxed.
I don't have much time. Pewter.
"The Lord had some fine dining ware in his home, but we traded most of that for clothing and farming equipment. I think there are a couple of goblets left. Master Cled, our elder, has them in the other hovel,"
That might work.
Vin said.
Though the metal probably won't be mixed with allomantic percentages in mind.
Also, I'm thinking, what are you gonna do, Vin? Lick it and
Yeah.
run?
She is her mind is adult.
One problem at a time. Get the metal, then we'll figure out what to do.
No, that'll be a popsicle. It'll be fun.
With luck, it would only have a bit too much tin or lead, making the pewter less powerful than it would be otherwise. The couple frowned, then looked at the others in the hovel. Vin felt despair crawl back into her chest. What was she thinking? Even if the pewter were of the right alloy, it would take time to shave it and produce enough for her to use in running. Pewter burned relatively quickly. She'd need a lot of it. Preparing it could take almost as much time as simply walking to Luthadel.
I'm glad she
Answered.
got there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it makes sense she would be just cloudy thinking.
Yeah. She turned, looking south through the dark, snowy sky. Even with pewter, it would take hours more running. What she really needed was a spikeway, a path marked by spikes driven in the ground that an allomancer could push against, throwing themselves through the air again and again. On such an organized pathway, she'd once traveled from Felice to Luthadel, an hour's carriage ride, in under 10 minutes.
At this point, I was like, "Yay!"
I thought
I was
of
like,
you
"I
when I
called
read
it!
that.
I called it!" Yeah.
But there was no spikeway from this village along the canal route to Luthadel. They were too hard to set up, too specific in their usefulness, to be worth the bother of running them long distances. Vin turned, causing the Ska couple to jump. Perhaps they'd noticed the daggers in her belt, or perhaps it was the look in her eyes, but they no longer looked quite as friendly as they had before.
Is that a stable?
Vin said, nodding toward one of the dark buildings. "Yes," the man said hesitantly, "but we have no horses, only a couple of goats and cows. Surely you don't want to—"
Horseshoes.
The man frowned.
I need horseshoes. A lot of them.
"Follow me," the man said, responding to her soothing. He led her out into the cold afternoon. Others followed behind them, and Vin noticed two men casually holding cudgels. Perhaps it wasn't only Ellen's protection that had allowed these people to remain unmolested.
Yeah, people make a plan. They take care of themselves. I'm glad.
Yeah. The stocky man threw his weight against the stable door, pushing it to the side. He pointed to a barrel inside. "They were getting rusty anyway," he said. And at that point, I thought to myself, okay, so I wonder what happens if you try to burn rusty metal. I don't think that's what she's going to do,
Mhm.
or I
But it
didn't.
just made you ask the question. Yeah.
It did, yeah. Vin walked up to the barrel and took out a horseshoe, testing its weight. Then she tossed it up in front of her and pushed it with a solid flare of steel. It shot away, arcing far through the air until it splashed into a pool some 100 paces away.
Perfect.
The Ska men were staring. Vin reached into her pocket and pulled out one of her metal vials, downing its contents and restoring her pewter. She didn't have much of it left by pewter dragging standards, but she had plenty of steel and iron, both burned slowly. She could push and pull on metals for hours yet.
Prepare your village.
She said, burning pewter, then counting out 10 horseshoes.
Luthadel is besieged. It might have fallen already. If you get word that it has, I suggest you take your people and move to Terrace. Follow the Imperial Canal directly to the north.
At that, I thought, but you haven't been to Terrace. Are you sure they're going to accept refugees?
Well, she's just hoping that they move. That's all.
Yeah.
They can figure it out.
Who are you?
Nobody of consequence.
You're her, aren't you? She didn't need to ask what he meant. She simply dropped a horseshoe to the ground behind her.
Yes.
She said quietly, then pushed on the shoe. And that, we're going to cut that line for the trailer as well, yeah?
Yes.
I think that's all that needs to be said about that interaction. Yeah?
Very cool. And yes, just this is the interaction that makes that a religious site now.
Yes. She immediately shot into the air at an angle. As she began to fall, she dropped another horseshoe. She waited until she was near the ground to push against this one. She needed to keep herself going more forward than up. She'd done all this before. It wasn't that different from using coins to jump around. The trick was going to be to keep herself moving. As she pushed against the second horseshoe, propelling herself into the snowy air again, she reached behind herself and pulled hard on the first horseshoe. The horseshoe wasn't connected to anything, so it leaped into the air after her, crossing the distance through the sky, as Vin dropped a third horseshoe to the ground. She let go of the first shoe, its momentum carrying it through the air above her head. It fell to the ground as she pushed against the third shoe and pulled on the second one, now far behind her.
Very cool, very smart. And yeah, she couldn't have done this with coins because coins are just too small of a hinge for her to be working with.
Yeah, I get it conceptually. It's juggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is going to be tough.
Vin thought, frowning with concentration as she passed over the first shoe and pushed on it. She didn't get the angle right, and she fell too far before pushing. The horseshoe shot out behind her and didn't give her enough upward momentum to keep her in the air. She hit the ground hard, but immediately pulled the shoe to herself and tried again. The first few attempts were slow. The biggest problem was getting the angle correct. She had to hit the shoe just right, giving it enough downward force to keep it in place on the ground, but enough forward momentum to keep her moving in the right direction. She had to land often that first half hour, going back to fetch horseshoes, but she didn't have time for much experimentation, and her determination insisted that she get the process right.
I like that she doesn't just get it perfectly the first time.
Agreed.
Yeah, she's literally, she was thinking of, okay, I know she wasn't exactly thinking of licking spoons, but like she was cloudy minded as well. So she's not in her most dexterous state of mind. So it makes sense that this as well. Like I expect her to be good at basically everything, but yeah, this would take time, and I like that she's not perfect.
Yeah. Eventually, she had 3 shoes working pretty well. It helped that the ground was wet and that her weight pressed the horseshoes down in the mud, giving her a stronger anchor to use when pushing herself forward. Soon she was able to add a 4th shoe. The more frequently she pushed, the more horseshoes she had to push against, the faster she would go. By the time she was an hour out of the village, she'd added a 5th shoe. The result was a continuous flow of flipping metal chunks. Then pulled, then pushed, then pulled, then pushed, moving with continual single-mindedness, juggling herself through the air. The ground raced beneath her, and horseshoes shot through the air above her. The wind became a roar as she pushed herself faster and faster, steering her pathway to the south. She was a flurry of metal and motion, as Kelsier had been near the end, when he had killed the Inquisitor. Good passage.
Mm-hmm.
Except her metal wasn't meant to kill but save,
I might not arrive in time,
she thought, air rushing around her.
but I'm not going to give up halfway.
And I have to cover a specific quick set of lines. She was a flurry of metal and motion, as Kelsier had been near the end when he had killed the Inquisitor, except her metal wasn't meant to kill but save. And I read that and I wrote in my notes in all caps, "Excuse me, Vin? Why did Kelsier fight an Inquisitor? Was it to kill it or to save his friends?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't
He was
you,
for both of those things.
Didn't you, Vin, just earlier in this very chapter think to yourself you still had that the words "you still have a lot to learn about friendship," Vin, was directly in response to you not wanting Kelsier to save Spook and Orosor? And yet here you say that he burnt that metal to kill an Inquisitor? I mean, sure, killing the Inquisitor was a necessity to save the friends. Shame on you, Vin, is what I'm
Ah,
saying here.
okay. I didn't have that reaction at all because it was basically a throwaway line. It was just, oh, I'm not killing with this metal. I'm moving and saving. It's a stupid line to write. Absolutely.
See,
But I don't think that's what Vin is. Vin is not really not making a huge value judgment in the way that you heard it. I didn't hear it that way. I was just like, she's just thinking, I'm moving to save, not kill an Inquisitor. But she knows that killing an Inquisitor would be to save people. She knows that. I don't think that she's that dumb.
I think you're right. It's more like I think that line is supposed to be an epic line, and it just fell completely flat for me because
Hmm.
there was so much more context to it.
Yeah,
And
we could have done without it. Absolutely.
yeah,
Like I don't think Vin is making like making that judgment and all of that. Like I know you were playing it up, but I'm
yeah,
just saying I
it
don't
was.
think that Vin is doing that. But yeah, but the line is, yeah, we could do without it.
Perhaps, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's kicking it into high gear now.
Mm-hmm.
Really great chapter with some of the best prose, I think, in the book thus far.
Yeah,
Some of the best character work thus far.
best cinematics.
So, we got a trailer line.
Mm-hmm.
We might have. We actually got two.
Yeah,
I think one from Sazed and one from Vin.
mm-hmm. But we would cut this last one. Not that it
Yeah.
is a line.
No.
Right.
Anything else to say?
Can't wait for the next one.
Same. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Darn Kitte if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks,
Okay,
bye.
thanks. Bye. Dorcas and I. Dorcas and I are both going into the story completely new and with almost no blah blah blah. And today we will be covering chapter 51. Sorry,
Chapter
52. Like I was hearing electricity going. Zzz, so, you know, okay, it's fine now. I think it's fine. I think I'm good. But if I die, sorry.
Oh no. Don't get electrocuted while I'm in a call with you. That would be very traumatic for me.
Like, yeah, I'm sorry.